I remember the exact moment it happened. The sun was blazing over our neighborhood like a spotlight, baking the pavement and making the air shimmer like waves. Kids were screaming with laughter in the pool, splashing, jumping, doing cannonballs. Everyone was having fun until the screaming changed. Not the happy kind. It started with a high-pitched shriek from Hoa. She grabbed her head like she'd been stung by a jellyfish and gasped, "My hair! What's wrong with my hair?" People turned. Then they saw it. Hoa's beautiful black hair, thick, shiny, and straight, was turning a bright, sickly green, strand by strand, like something from a horror movie. Everyone froze. Her friends backed away. Phones came out. I heard gasps, then nervous laughter, then screams. Some kids scrambled out of the pool, clutching their own hair. Then she locked eyes with me. I was sitting on the edge of the pool, just watching quietly, calm, still, my legs dangling in the water. She pointed at me with shaking fingers. "What did you do?" I tilted my head, smiled just a little. Because Hoa didn't know. She didn't know I was a water chemist. And this was only the beginning. Cliffhanger. Earlier that summer, 2 months before the green hair incident, things were different. I had just moved into the neighborhood with my older brother, Ken. We were renting a small house near the park, and the community pool was the main hangout spot. I didn't talk much. People thought I was weird, always reading, always watching, but I liked it that way. I loved chemistry, especially water chemistry, not the kind they teach in school. I had my own kitbig, dangerous secret. I studied reactions, pH levels, chlorine decay, metal oxidations. To others, it was boring stuff. To me, it was like magic, and no one knew I was good at it. Then there was Hoa. She was loud, popular, and mean. She ruled the neighborhood like a queen. And I was the weird loner kid who smelled like a science lab, as she once said. From day one, Hoa made it her job to humiliate me. The first week, she stole my goggles and tossed them in the trash. The second week, she told everyone I peed in the pool, which wasn't true, obviously. And the third week. Well, let's just say I started taking notes. I didn't want revenge at first, honestly. But then she took it too far. One hot Wednesday afternoon, she pushed me into the pool while I was fully clothed. I wasn't even swimming. My notebook was in my hand. My chemistry notes, ruined. My formulas, my data, gone. Everyone laughed. Hoa stood over me, smirking. "Oops," she said, giggling with her friends. Did the little scientist melt? And that was the moment I decided. I wouldn't yell. I wouldn't fight. I would calculate. The plan. I spent the next few weeks at the pool. Watching, testing, observing how often they added chlorine. When the pool guy showed up, what chemicals he used, where the supply room was. I even noticed that Hoa's favorite seat was always on the east side of the pool, where the sun hit hardest. She loved diving, especially after showing off her perfect hair to everyone. I smiled quietly to myself, each time knowing the clock was ticking. But here's the secret most people don't know. If you mess with the copper pipes in the filter system, if you adjust the pH just right, and if you know the exact moment the chlorine drops below balance, then the copper starts to react. And when copper reacts in certain ways with hair, it turns it green. Bright, neon, unforgivable green. Setting the trap. I waited for the perfect storm. 4th of July. The pool was packed. Music was blasting. Kids were everywhere. The pool staff was distracted. Fireworks were planned for later that night. It was the perfect day. The night before, while everyone was asleep, I made my move. I snuck into the supply room, unlocked, thanks to my brother's old lock-picking kit. I slipped in with gloves and goggles, adjusted the pH with a slow-release formula I'd invented months ago, left behind a few invisible copper chips, timed to dissolve once the sun heated the pipes enough. Then I walked home and waited. Day. The sun was already beating down hard when I arrived at the pool with my towel. I kept my head down, sat on the edge like usual, pretended to read a book. Hoa arrived in her shiny pink bikini, her hair swaying like a shampoo commercial. She strutted past me, dropped her sunglasses next to my foot, and said loudly, "Don't fry your brain out here, Professor Nerd." Laughter again. I just smiled and watched the water bubble under the surface. Then it happened. Exactly 34 minutes after she jumped in the pool, her hair started to shimmer, then tint, then twist into green. Not all at once. No, just the edges at first, the tips, then the strands along her forehead, then the rest. The screaming started. Phones came out. Friends stepped back like she was contagious. And Hoa, her mouth wide open in shock, turned to me. She knew. Well, not everything. Not yet. But enough to scream, "What did you do?" Cliffhanger ending to Chapter 1. Before I could say a word, a loud whistle blew from across the pool. It was Mr. Daniels, the pool manager, storming toward us. "Everyone out of the water, now!" People started climbing out. Hoa was still frozen, hands in her hair, crying. But Mr. Daniels wasn't looking at her. He was staring at me, with fire in his eyes. He jabbed his finger in my direction and shouted, "You! Come with me, right now!" I stood slowly, wiped the water from my hands, and followed him toward the pump room, heart pounding, because he was about to find out what I did and why. Mr. Daniels, the pool manager, had just blown his whistle, yelled at everyone to get out of the water, and pointed straight at me. Hoa's hair was green. Her screams were still echoing. And now, I was being marched toward the pump room like a prisoner. But I didn't run. I didn't cry. I just walked. Because I knew what I'd done. And I knew why. Inside the pump room. The pump room was hot and loud. Big machines buzzed and rumbled. Chlorine tanks lined the wall. The air smelled like bleach and wet concrete. Mr. Daniels slammed the door behind us and spun around. "What did you do to the pool?" he snapped. I didn't flinch. "Nothing dangerous." "Don't play games with me, kid," he barked. "I saw the green. I know chemical sabotage when I see it." That caught me off guard. Chemical sabotage? He wasn't as clueless as I thought. "You're not a normal kid, are you?" he asked, eyes narrowing. I hesitated, then sighed. "I study water chemistry," I said slowly. "I've been studying it since I was 10. I run tests. I know how chemicals interact, and I know your filtration system hasn't been flushed in 3 months. He blinked. "What?" "The copper buildup," I explained calmly. "It's sitting in your pipes. Combine that with the chlorine drop during peak hours, and the pH from sweat and sunscreen. He looked at me like I'd grown a second head. I didn't poison anyone, I added. I just gave it a little nudge. His jaw clenched. So you did tamper with it. I looked at him square in the eye. She humiliated me, over and over. I didn't want to hurt her, just teach her. He shook his head slowly, muttering, "Kids, these days." Then he did something unexpected. He didn't yell. He didn't call the police. He sat down and started laughing. The unexpected truth. "Let me guess," Mr. Daniels said, rubbing his face. "It was the copper, oxidation. The green comes from the reaction of copper with low chlorine water and keratin, right?" My eyes widened. You know about that?" He grinned. "Kid, I was a water chemist in the army. I know the tricks." Now it was my turn to sit down, stunned. "You were?" "Retired now," he said. "But you've got the eye, the brain, and unfortunately, the attitude." That part stung, but I couldn't argue. "Do you realize you could have caused a panic?" he said. I nodded. "I didn't mean to. I just wanted her to stop treating me like garbage." Mr. Daniels sighed and stood back up. "You messed up. But I'm not gonna call your parents, yet. You're coming back tomorrow, early. You're gonna help me clean the filter system, and you'll learn how real pool maintenance works." I swallowed. "Deal." He walked me to the door. Just before opening it, he looked over his shoulder. "Oh, Han, don't think this is over. You've just started something." Back outside. The moment I stepped back into the sunlight, all eyes turned to me. Hoa's eyes were bloodshot. Her green hair was wet and clinging to her cheeks. She looked like a villain from a cartoon, but no one was laughing now. Her friends were whispering. Moms were whispering. Phones were still out. And then she screamed, "You're gonna pay for this! My mom's a lawyer!" I opened my mouth to reply, but suddenly, something flew past my fascia shoe. It missed, but barely. People gasped. Mr. Daniels barked, "Ho! Enough!" She froze, and the pool went silent again. The social shift. The rest of that day, things got weird. People avoided me, but they avoided Hoa more. Some of her own friends started whispering behind her back. "She's always been mean. She totally pushed him into the pool that day. She deserved it." I didn't expect that. I didn't expect anything, honestly. But when I got home, I found a message slipped under our door. A note. One sentence. "I know what you did. Meet me tonight, 9 p.m. behind the snack bar. Come alone. No name. No signature. But the handwriting? Definitely not Hoa's." The midnight meeting. That night, I waited in the shadows behind the snack bar, the pool lights flickering in the distance. I checked my watch. 2 p.m. A twig snapped. I turned quickly. Someone stepped out. It was Nina, one of Hoa's closest friends. She looked nervous, hugging her arms. "I don't have much time," she whispered. "Then talk fast," I said. She looked around, then leaned in close. "She's planning something, Hoa. Something bad. She's furious. She says you embarrassed her forever. She's not letting this go." I felt a chill. She said, "She wants to ruin you, or worse." I frowned. "Why are you telling me this?" Nina bit her lip. "Because I think what you did was kinda awesome. And because tomorrow She looked down. She's bringing the bleach. Nina leaned in close behind the snack bar, her voice shaky. She's bringing the bleach. I froze. Bleach? To the pool? That wasn't just petty revenge that was dangerous. People could get hurt. Burned skin, breathing problems, chemical reactions with pool water. Suddenly, this wasn't about pranks anymore. This was war. The next morning, I didn't sleep. All night, my brain was buzzing formulas, chlorine levels, possible chemical reactions. Bleach in a public pool wasn't a joke. If HOA really poured it in while people were swimming, it could seriously hurt someone. I had to stop her. But how? If I told Mr. Daniels, he might shut down the pool, and then everyone would know something big was happening. HOA might deny everything and twist the story, or worse, go underground and strike later. No, I had to catch her in the act. I packed my backpack that morning like a scientist going into battle. Plus, test strips, my water testing kit, a GoPro camera, 1 bottle of red dye for marking water sources, my dad's old flashlight, and 2 small, pool-safe, non-toxic chemical capsules, just in case. Return to the pool. When I arrived, the pool was already buzzing. Kids were splashing. Moms were chatting. Lifeguards were yawning. But something felt off. HOA wasn't near her usual lounge chair. She wasn't anywhere. I scanned the pool deck, looked behind the snack bar, even peeked into the restrooms. Nothing. Then I saw Nina Shea was biting her nails near the changing rooms. The moment our eyes met, she gave a tiny nod and tilted her head. She was signaling me. I followed her, staying casual, weaving through the sunbathers like I belonged. We met by the janitor's closet. She's here, Nina whispered. In the pump area, with something in her bag. Where's Mr. Daniels? He's in the office. He's on a call. She waited for that. Did she already pour it? Nina shook her head. Not yet. She said she wanted to see your face first. That gave me a chance. The trap. I pulled the GoPro from my backpack and clipped it to the back fence, post-hidden behind a towel rack. It had the perfect view of the pump door. Then, I activated the red dye capsule in the small side drainage pipe that fed into the pre-filter system. It wouldn't hurt anyone, but it would let me see if anything unusual went through. If bleach hit that pipe, it'd mix with the dye and cause a bright, visible flare in the filter basin. I'd know. I also set my pH test paper beside the edge of the water line just inside the drain, cover tucked under a rock. If the water's chemical balance changed, the paper would turn deep orange. I was ready. Now, I needed to draw her out. HOA appears. At 11:15 a.m., I spotted her. She was walking casually along the pool's edge, sunglasses on, a big floppy hat over her now dull green hair. But she wasn't alone. Jake, the meanest boy in school, was walking next to her, carrying a duffel bag. He was chewing gum and laughing, clearly thinking this was some kind of joke. My heart sank. She had backup. I ducked behind the snack stand and watched them approach the maintenance entrance. The lifeguards were distracted. Mr. Daniels was still in his office. I saw HOA glance over her shoulder, then disappear into the pump building. I waited. 30 seconds, then sprinted. Inside the pump room, chaos begins. I burst in just in time. HOA was kneeling by the open chemical bin, holding a gallon jug of industrial bleach. The kind with skull and crossbones warning signs on the label. Jake jumped and nearly dropped the duffel. Dude, you scared the... Put it down, I said. Hoa stood, scowling. You followed me? I nodded. And filmed you. Her eyes flickered toward the door. You're bluffing. Nope. I pointed at the camera hidden outside. You're on tape, about to poison a public pool. She laughed. Poison? Oh, please. It's just bleach. My mom uses it for laundry. You're about to dump an entire bottle into a high-traffic pool during full sun exposure, I said, keeping my voice steady. That'll spike the chlorine concentration past legal limits. Burn skin, hurt eyes, even cause breathing problems. And if someone has asthma? Her smile faltered. Jake looked uncomfortable. She's bluffing, right? He asked. I'm not, I said. And you'll both go down for this. The GoPro is streaming straight to the cloud. Hoa's hand twitched. Then she did something I didn't expect. She threw the bleach. I dove. The jug crashed against the floor, cracking open. A burst of chemical vapor hissed out. Jake screamed and ran. I grabbed the emergency neutralizer powder from the shelf and dumped it on the spill just like Mr. Daniels taught me. Foam hissed and fizzed, soaking up the mess. The door slammed shut. Hoa had locked me in. Trapped. I pounded the door. Let me out! Nothing. The room was still ventilated barely, but I couldn't breathe too deeply. My eyes were stinging. My hand shook as I grabbed my phone, but the signal was dead. I scanned the room. No windows, just vents. One camera streaming to my cloud. But I couldn't communicate. Then I saw the floor hatch. The crawl pipe that led under the pump filters toward the outer drain system. Barely big enough. I pulled it open. Dark. Wet. Tight. But it was my only way out. I crawled in. Under the pool. It was like being inside a concrete snake. The pipe was cold and slippery. My knees scraped on tiny pebbles. My flashlight flickered as I pushed forward. Water dripped from above. The hum of machines echoed all around me. Then, voices. I reached the end of the tunnel and peeked out through the small metal grate. I could see the pool deck again, and Hoa, yelling at Mr. Daniels. She's the one. She's the freak who tried to ruin me. Mr. Daniels looked confused. What are you talking about? She snuck into the pump room. She poured something in. She said she's a chemist or whatever. Check the room. I waited, held my breath. Then I saw Nina. She walked up behind Hoa. Just as Mr. Daniels grabbed the jug of bleach and turned to call the police, Hoa ran past the snack bar, through the sunbathers, and out the pool gate like a fox on fire. Stop her! Someone yelled. But it was too late. Hoa vanished into the street, her floppy hat tumbling off as she disappeared behind the trees. The crowd buzzed like a stirred beehive. Phones were still filming. People were shouting questions, and Mr. Daniels looked like he'd aged 10 years in 5 minutes. I stood there, soaked and shaky, holding the empty bleach jug like a trophy in one hand and a crumpled pH test strip in the other. It had turned orange proof that the water balance had nearly shifted. I had stopped her just in time. But I knew this wasn't over. Mr. Daniels' office. 20 minutes later. The office smelled like printer ink and chlorine tablets. Mr. Daniels sat at his desk with a deep frown, one hand on the phone and the other rubbing his temple. I sat across from him, legs swinging nervously. So, you're really a chemist? he asked finally. Water chemist, I corrected gently. Self-trained. I've been studying since I was 10. My dad's a lab scientist. Mr. Daniels nodded slowly, impressed. That explains the GoPro, and the dye in the pipes, and the reaction powder I used to neutralize the bleach. He blinked at me. Kid, you might have saved someone's life today. I didn't want to get anyone in trouble, but she wouldn't stop. Well, he said, picking up the phone again. The board's going to want a full report, and I think the police will want a word with HOA. Later that evening, the group chat explodes. Nina added me to a private group chat called Pool Day Heroes. There were a dozen kids in it, most of them regular swimmers. Some had seen what happened. Some had filmed it. A few were already posting clips online. And then, someone dropped the link. TikTok. Ho got exposed. Water chemist saves the day. Hoo. I clicked it. There I was scrawling out from the drain tunnel like some kind of wet raccoon, holding up the bleach jug as if I'd just conquered Mount Doom. Hoa's face in the background was twisted in disbelief. The video had 43 views. And counting. The comments were insane. Bro, she ran like GTA 5T. Give this kid a scholarship. Is she really a chemist? Okay, but Hoa's hair though, TT. Wait, is it turning green? That last comment made my heart skip. I stared, scrolled back, paused the video, zoomed in, and yes, it was happening. Under the bright pool sun, through the wet strands and sweat and panic, Hoa's hair had turned an unmistakable, seaweed-looking shade of green. Flashback. 1 week earlier. See? The thing about chlorine? If it gets too high and mixes with certain metals, like copper, it can oxidize. And oxidized copper in pool water. It clings to hair, especially bleached, damaged blonde hair. Now, guess who just bleached their hair for the summer, then kept swimming after I spiked the copper test? Yep, HOA. I hadn't done it on purpose. I'd been testing different copper levels to see how the filters handled mineral changes. But when I realized what was happening, I maybe didn't stop it. Maybe I watched as the copper built up. Maybe I even tested a few strands from the drains. And now, after all her shouting and scheming, her hair was turning green in front of everyone, forever saved in HD. The next morning, school rumors and a viral boom. I walked into school like nothing happened. My backpack was a little heavier with my water test kit. My hoodie still smelled faintly of pool chemicals. But my heart? It was light, because as soon as I entered the hallway, kids turned. They whispered, pointed. One girl gasped, "That's her." Someone shouted, "Water, chemist queen!" By third period, it was official. Someone made a meme of me standing with the bleach bottle. When they try to fight, but you fight with science. Someone else edited my face onto a Marvel poster. The Chlorine Avenger. Even Ms. Rickson, the science teacher, clapped when I walked into class. Future Nobel Prize winner in the room, she said with a wink. But not everyone was happy. HOA didn't show up to school that day. Or the next. Rumor was she had gone to the salon to fix the green. But bleaching over it made it worse. Her hair had turned a kind of forest swamp color, and the only solution now was to shave it off or dye it black. And Jake? Well, he posted a very long Instagram story full of crying emojis, talking about how he didn't know what was really happening and was just trying to help a friend. Nobody believed him. He started sitting alone at lunch. Nina sat with me instead. Science fair. Surprise. On Friday, the principal made a surprise announcement. We are very proud of our student, insert my name here, who demonstrated bravery, science skills, and quick thinking. She has been invited to speak at the city's Junior Science Expo next month. The cafeteria went wild. I just smiled. Because I hadn't done it for the fame. I did it because science is powerful. And because when people try to mess with others, they should know something. You never mess with a water chemist. But just when I thought it was over. That night, a private message pinged on my phone. Unknown number. You think this is done? You have no idea who you're messing with. Then another. Green hair. Was just the beginning. I stared at the screen. My fingers tingled. The message was signed. Just as everything seemed to calm down, I received a mysterious message on my phone. You think this is done? You have no idea who you're messing with. Green hair was just the beginning. Edge. Saturday morning. The calm before the storm. I woke up early, thinking maybe the message was a joke. But then I saw it. Instagram story. HOA. Official. 19. Slide 1. A video of her in a salon chair, wearing dark sunglasses and a hoodie. Slide 2. A mirror selfie. Her hair dyed completely black, with the caption, "New look, new me. But y'all better sleep with one eye open." Slide 3. A note scribbled on paper zoomed in. Science girl thinks she won. We'll see after Monday. Tells her, Monday, the attack begins. It started with the showers. The locker room at school smelled weird. Not bad exactly, but like pickles? Then girls started screaming. My hair, what's happening? One by one, the girls who used the school showers ran out with slimy greenish hair strands. Some even had tiny flakes falling off like glitter. I rushed in with a strip of test paper and dipped it into the water. Bright green, high copper, spiked acid levels. And what was this? Gelatin? Someone had melted a weird mix of metallic slime into the system. Only one person would know how to do that besides me. HOA had copied my chemistry notebook. She must have seen it when I left my binder open during the pool drama. I thought she was too busy yelling, but she was watching, taking notes. Now she was trying to beat me at my own game. But she made a big mistake. Because water chemistry is precise. You mess up a single ratio, and the whole thing backfires. Which it did. By lunch, the same girls who'd been screaming about green hair started itching. By twund period, their clothes had weird stains, like invisible ink was reacting on them. By threerd period, one girl fainted from the fumes. That's when I knew. This was no longer a prank. It was a chemical attack. The science teacher's lab, Operation Cleanup. I barged into Ms. Rickson's class, holding a bucket of sodium thiosulfate, baking soda, and conditioner. Emergency water neutralizer, I said, panting. She didn't even blink. Show me! We ran to the janitor's closet and opened the maintenance panel. I dumped my mix into the shower line, using a flushing agent I'd only ever read about in science forums. Water gushed. The pipes groaned. Then silence. I tested the water again. Perfect pH. Safe. Neutral. But I wasn't done. I had a plan. The school assembly. Final showdown. Principal Myers called an emergency meeting in the auditorium. The entire school was buzzing with fear and confusion. Kids whispered, parents started calling in, and someone from the local news showed up. "I have a confession," I said, walking to the front of the stage. Cameras clicked. Phones turned. "I'm a water chemist. Not official yet, but close. Everything that happened this week, the green hair, the slime water, it all started because I tried to protect the pool." Gasps. I held up my phone and tapped the video. HOA dumping powder into a vent pipe during cleaning duty. Here's proof. She did it again, this time in the showers. A beat of silence. Then a roar. Principal Myers turned beet red. "Oh, Tran, please report to the office immediately." But she was already gone. Someone shouted from the hallway. I saw her leave. She ran out the side door. The crowd surged, but I stayed still, because in her rush, HOA had left her bag. Inside the bag, the final twist. It wasn't just a notebook. It was a folder full of plans, handwritten formulas, maps of the school's plumbing, photos of me at the pool, at school, even inside the science lab. But the most chilling part, a list of names. My name was at the top, followed by Nina, Mr. Daniels, Jake, Ms. Rickson. She'd planned everything. This wasn't about hair. It was revenge. 1 week later, the fallout. HOA was suspended for the rest of the year. Police were investigating her for tampering with public systems. But even with her gone, things felt strange. I still checked the water before showering, still looked over my shoulder in the hallway. And then, at the Science Expo, a delivery arrived at my booth. No return address. Inside the box, a single bottle of green hair dye. And a note, "Science is war. I'll be back."